2014, I think it is, 6, 7 years, and bring Jim and he'll tell us all about it.
Thank you very much. There's a lot of topics that are a whole lot more sexy than homelessness. Yep. This is a tough one, so let's just admit that up front. Most of us have had an association with a homeless person that has been unpleasant. Panhandling, perhaps, aggressiveness on the streets, perhaps, needle usage, drug usage, perhaps. Homelessness encompasses it's a big umbrella. If you think of homelessness maybe like a shotgun blast with pellets coming out all over, kind of hard to get your arms around that. What we're talking about today is not that. It's something different. What we're talking about today is a laser focus on family homelessness in Brevard County. Okay? So let me just go over a few things. These are statistics and stuff just so you get kind of a scope of the problem. In Brevard County, homelessness is growing by leaps and bounds. Last year, 2019, according to the Brevard County Board of Education, we had over 2,500 kids, 2,500 children, K through 12, who were homeless on any given day. That's not in Florida. That's here in this county, 2,500 kids. That's terrible. Breaks your heart. That just breaks your heart. Okay, how about taking a guess on this one? What is the fastest growing category of homelessness nationally and in our county?
Yeah, seniors.
Seniors, there's a guess, okay, another guess?
Teenage mothers.
Teenage mothers, another guess? My guess was veterans. You know what it is? Family homelessness. Fastest growing, 37% of the homeless in our county are families, and it's growing. The percentage is growing. And that's a whole new face on homelessness. That's something that we've not experienced before. Well, back in the days during the Depression and stuff, but recently. Okay, how much, just as a guess here, how much does it cost this county a year to take care of the homeless? Ballpark?
$2 million.
$2 million. Do I hear three? Do I hear three? Do I hear four? $27 million bucks.
Wow.
A year. So you are paying the price for homelessness if you pay taxes. You're being affected. So even though homeless may seem like a problem that doesn't really affect you, yeah, it does financially if in no other way. Okay, causes for homelessness. Now we know some of it, right? Some of it is homeless by choice. Hey, I'm not going to follow your rules. I'm not going to follow your laws. I'm going to live under the bridge. Okay. Some of it is homelessness because of really bad decisions. I'm going to choose to do drugs. I'm going to choose to do alcohol. Can't ignore that. That's out there. Let's see, what do I have here? But the main cause of homelessness for families in Brevard County, any guess?
Lost a job.
Real estate price.
Lost a job?
Income. Rent going up.
Yeah. Are you in this business? How do you know that? Yeah.
No,
Rents went up last year by 15% in this county. Now take a look at your mortgage, or your rent. If that goes up by 15% in a year, what's that do to your income? Well, if you're a person who has low income, let's say the man is woman and the woman is working, it takes in this county about 30 to 80% of your money to pay your rent. So if rents go up, or if there's an accident to one of the spouses, or if there's an illness, or if there's a divorce, or if there's a job loss, any of one of these things that can happen that aren't your fault, and you're barely making it, paying the rent, guess what happens? You become homeless. And in this county, the good news is property has been over the years appreciating. Things are going well by and large for us in this county, but what that means is costs are going up, and that includes the cost of rent, and that means that many, many people are becoming homeless, not because of choice, but because of chance or circumstance. Those are the folks that we're talking about here. Now, The state of Florida, as usual, has had a wonderful response to this. In 1990, they created something called the Sadowski Act. And the Sadowski Act was a program that took money from real estate transactions, buying or selling a house, and they put a portion of that money towards building affordable housing for folks who had issues like we just talked about. That's the good news. The bad news is that those funds were raided by the legislatures to pay for other programs. So over the year, like Social Security, you remember heard about Social Security? That's going to be defunded because we pulled, yeah, same thing. So,
Tagged on bills.
huh?
Tagged on bills.
Yeah, there you go, okay. So, over the years, $2 billion that was meant for homeless, affordable housing, not homeless, but affordable housing for people who are having these transitional issues. $2 billion has been taken from that fund and used elsewhere. Now, there were two legislators. I found this interesting. Debbie Mayfield of Melbourne and Representative Renee, I'll mess this up, Placendia of Orlando, both Republicans, who said, hey, we can't have this. We're going to introduce legislation to stop people from raiding that fund. You want to know what happened with that legislation?
Still with us.
Got buried.
Yeah, it's out there in the swamp somewhere. Okay, so homelessness is costing us in this county a lot of money, and we're not getting any help from the state. Now, I know my time is limited here, so I'm going to scoot right on to what Family Promise does about this. Let me tell you, before I tell you what makes Family Promise different, let me tell you just a little bit about Family Promise. Family Promise was founded in 1986 by a lady named Karen Olson, just a housewife. Nothing special, I mean, just a housewife. She was driving to work, she saw a lady who was homeless, stopped and bought her a sandwich, and talked to the lady a bit, and the story that the lady told Karen broke her heart. Because she was there, not because of her choice, but just because of a series of bad circumstances. So Karen went to her family and said, hey, this thing is existing right down the street from us, we have to do something. And so they started making sandwiches. So they made sandwiches on the weekend and handed them out kind of indiscriminately to homeless folks. That's how this thing started. Well, fast forward to 1992, Family Promise is now a national organization, and it was honored by George and Barbara Bush, I want to get this right here, as one of the 21 Points of Light Award, and that's for being one of the top volunteer agencies in the United States of America, in terms of effectiveness and in terms of efficiency. And since that time, Family Promise has continued to be recognized probably as the leader in terms of nonprofit groups that are dealing with family homelessness. We work with Sesame Street. We're featured on Sesame Street in programming. We have programs with national companies like PetSmart. So Family Promise is well organized and is a national program. And just for some numbers here, 200,000 volunteers, 41 states. We've served over 500,000 people. 80% of those people that we served are still in homes. We've got 216 affiliates, 12 in Florida, each independently run and orchestrated. And our vision basically is a nation in which every family has a home, a livelihood, and the chance to build a better future together. Now, let me tell you about Family Promise locally here in Brevard. The chapter opened up in 2013. And since that time, we have either prevented homelessness, diverted homelessness, or found homes for, what is that? Let me get that right. 1,600 families.
Right.
So 1,600 families are not homeless now because of the work Family Promise has done. Yeah?
Where forget. What's the percentage of the homeless is seniors?
I have no idea. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, what makes Family Promise different when we attack homelessness is, first off, we go after families. So that means a father, a mother, and children. It could be a mother with a male child. It could be a father with children, or it could be a guardian, like say a grandmother, or something like that with children, as long as there is a male involved. There's lots of agencies that take care of mothers, lots of agencies that take care of children, lots of agencies that take care of mother and females, but there's very few in the county that take care of families. So that's how we define a family. The first criteria is the family has to want to stay together. If the family doesn't care about staying together, they can't fit our program. They're just disqualified. The second criteria is that the families have to be vetted by our organization. That means we sit down one-on-one, no drug abuse, no alcohol abuse. You have to be disciplined, you have to be willing to sacrifice, you have to play by our rules, or you can't get in the program. We turn away, based on a phone conversation, about 75% of people who apply. They just don't fit our category. Remember, we're not trying to address homelessness as a whole. We're laser focused. Family homelessness for people who qualify, people who are disciplined, people who are willing to sacrifice. And when I say sacrifice, let me give you an idea. Family Promise controls 80% of the people's income. In other words, when you get your check, you give me 80% of it. Now it's all open, there's no hanky-panky here, but what that means is you don't have access to that money. So let's say you say, hey, we want to take the kids and we want to go up to Jacksonville and we want to stop along the way and we want to stay in a hotel and we want to have meals and we want to go see our family. No, you can't do that. You know why? Because that costs money. It takes money to operate a car, it takes money for gasoline, it takes money for insurance, it takes money to heat, it takes money to do all that. That money in our program we use to put it towards housing. Now, you want to go to a park? You want to go to the zoo? Sure, we'll put you on a bus to the zoo. We'll get you tickets to the zoo. We'll get you tickets to the movie theater. We'll do everything we can to help you have a wonderful experience, but you can't spend money. You smoke cigarettes, I mean, you got 20% of your income, you can do what you want with it. We don't recommend that, but we don't control down to the nth degree. But if a family is not willing to make that sacrifice, if they're not willing to give us control over 80% of their money so we can use it in a savings account, they can't be in our program. Yeah.
Is financial budgeting and planning and management so that they can kind of graduate out of that type of environment?
Yes.
Is that part of your program?
Yes. Let me answer that in two ways. While they are with us in the program, well, let me answer this. Let me take a side road and I'll get to there. We have 3 programs. The first program is prevention and diversion. What that means is a county agency will call us. Hey, we see a kid in school that's not doing well. We don't know why. They may have some issues at home. We call them. If they're on the verge of becoming homeless, we go in and try to help the family. Got an argument with my landlord, behind on my rent. My washer doesn't work and we're in a big argument about it. That kind of stuff. We can go in sometimes and prevent homelessness. Sometimes we can divert homelessness. We can take a family who's maybe the rent's gone up, they can't stay in that place, they've got a brother or a mother or somebody in the area. Maybe we can intercede there so that they can get temporary housing so we can help them out. Prevention, diversion, it's huge, and I'll tell you why. For every family that we can prevent homelessness or divert homelessness, the cost to us, not to you as a taxpayer, but to us, is $259. For every family that goes into homelessness, the cost to you is about $4,000 per family. So we save the taxpayer about $3,700 per family when we can prevent homelessness. And if you multiply that times 1,600 families, times 3,700 bucks, you're up in the millions. So financially, it makes sense to do this. Not even looking at it as a calling of the heart or as a mission from Christ, but financially it makes sense. Prevention. Okay. The second part of the program we call, what do they call it? Shelter. And what that means is, let's say you become homeless, something happens. We take you into our program after this vetting. We house you and we feed you. We clothe you if you need a coat and tie to do a job interview. We teach you how to do resumes. We teach you computer skills. But your job is to get out there and find a job. And your job is to get out there and find a home. And we help with that. We work with county agencies all over to try to find affordable housing for people. Once they move into housing, we help them get their beds. We help stock their refrigerator. We help them get there. We don't want them spending their money on linens and towels and stuff like that. if we could give them a start. That's the shelter program. The way it works is you go to a church about 5 o'clock at night, you're fed there, you're housed there till 7 o'clock in the morning. From there you go to the resource center, you shower up, and then you go your different ways. School or out getting a job. School or out looking for a home. Then you come back to the resource center, you come back to the church, and you cycle through again. That holds for 1 week, and then at the end of the second week, a different church. At the end of the third week, a different church. At the end of the fourth week, a different church. Most people matriculate through our program in 30 to 35 days. The national average is 40 to 45 days. And the reason why we're so successful is because we vet very hard. And once you're in the program, you gotta behave. I'll just give you an example. Broke my heart, but we had a case not too long ago where a 6-year-old girl, little tiny girl, she was uncontrollable. Sometimes you just have a kid like that. We couldn't make her obey the guidelines, nor could her parents. So she disrupted the whole program. She disrupted the other children, she disrupted the other guests, she disrupted the volunteers. We had to let the whole family go. The family was split up in this county because of the actions of that girl. But the greater good was served because the integrity of the program prevailed, and the other families could go ahead and matriculate through. Oh, it's a tough program. It's difficult, but you've got to be willing to sacrifice. You've got to be willing to, you've got to be disciplined. And you have to know how to behave with other folks to be in our program. Now, that may not be true for homelessness at large, and it may not be true for other categories of homelessness. We have other fantastic programs, His Place, other places that do wonderful things. So, our success rate, if you combine all these programs, our success rate is 9 out of 10 people. Oh, I'm sorry, third program, once you go in a home, we offer they don't call it case management, they call it stabilization. You meet with one of our people, a trained professional, every week as a family, if you choose, if you opt in, and they go over your family situation. Are you doing the kind of behaviors that are going to lead you to homelessness? If you are, how do we correct those? Are you doing the kind of behaviors that are going to have you help you have a stable home? If so, how do we reinforce those? Once a week, every week for 6 months. Because the highest risk of families becoming homeless is those first 6 months after they get in a home. Bad choices sometimes, lack of discipline sometimes, not knowing how to budget sometimes. So we help with that. We try to educate them, and the school that we use is Dave Ramsey, Financial Peace University. Yeah, that's our go-to. So between those 3 programs, prevention, shelter, and then the stabilization or case management, our success rate is almost 90%. We're about 86.7% of the people who come through our program are in houses, stable houses a year later. And nationally, nationally it's phenomenal. And locally, there's nobody around that can touch this. And the reason is because we use that laser light to really find the folks who want to have a home. For other folks, there's other agencies, and we help them, we help them find those other agencies. So, what's next for Family Promise? There's a couple things we're working on. There's over 70 nonprofit organizations in Brevard that work in this charitable arena. There's a lot of duplication. It's kind of government type stuff, a lot of crossover, I'm on tape, aren't I? There's a lot of organizations that are more interested in protecting their own little situation than they are in maybe extending out. Family Promise is trying to crack through all that. We're trying to work with other agencies to eliminate that duplication. We can't eliminate it, to mitigate it to some level, so that agencies are talking to one another. Because one of these agencies, Love Inc., great place, they store furniture. We can't do that. But people who call us to say, hey, I'm moving, I've got this furniture, we refer them to Love Inc. So when we have a family move in, we call Love Inc. Oh yeah, here's furniture, here's everything you need for you. So there's a lot of that kind of collaboration that we try to do throughout the county, and that's very, very helpful to our clients. Also, we're expanding. We used to be the central Brevard. Now we're starting to expand our prevention program to northern Brevard and to southern Brevard. So, it's difficult to do that because that requires money, And if you know anything about the government and governmental funds in this area, it's shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. So we do a lot of grant writing, and we also do events. You might have heard of our golf tournament over at IRCC, or the Emerald City 5K run that we do. These things are very important to us. And the other thing that we're finding is that if you have a child that's homeless, that means you can make certain other assumptions. They probably don't have very good dental habits. They probably don't have very good diet. They probably aren't healthy. They may have lice, ticks, they may have other things. So we're putting together a program working with some agencies in the county that will address health issues when the folks come in. Now we do that already, we do health screening and whatnot, but it's fairly limited. And we don't want that. We want a full program to give these families a fighting chance, so that once they get their homes and once they get their jobs and once they're independent of us, they have good hygiene habits, they have good dental habits, they have good cleanliness habits, they have good financial habits, and then we revisit them, like I say, every week to check off on these things. So, am I okay on time? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good.
To what extent does Medicaid help?
None.
None?
Not us. Not that I'm aware of. No, not that I'm aware of. We write grants to all kind of agencies. A lot of them used to be government, but because government they just don't have the funds anymore, it's being diverted. Most of them now are businesses. There's businesses that are interested in setting apart a certain side of their funds to do this stuff. The competition is very tough for this, but we've got an extremely successful program and a very, very highly identified clientele. So if they're interested in that, they tend to sponsor us. Yeah.
A lot of local corporations focus on United Way.
Mm-hmm.
Are you in United Way?
The best way I know to answer this is we work with United Way. We are not currently one of the recipients of their money, but we do support each other in things. So the answer is, yeah, we know who they are, they know who we are, they go to our events, we go to their events, there's some synergy there, but it's not nearly as tight as we would like for it to be.
Is there a reason why you're not in United Way?
Probably, but I don't know what that is.
The reason why is because, I mean, when I worked for Harris, you could contribute to United Way and it would go a percentage across all the members, or you could actually specifically designate a given organization that was part of United Way. So, you may look into that as a way to receive significant funding in the county by all the businesses such as Harris and Northrop and others that are contributing to United Way.
Thank you for that. I know we do work with Harris. Harris helps, they have that program you're talking about, and they can help fund us for certain events, like our 5K run. Mm-hmm. They usually help fund that. It's not through United Way.
And that's a sponsorship, right?
Yeah, that's a sponsorship.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're trying to tackle, and quite frankly, we're not very good at it. The people that started this are social working type people. They're not business people, they're not entrepreneurs, they're not finance people, they are to some level government people. So that's why they're bringing on volunteers like me to try to give them some expertise in areas that are a little bit difficult for them. And it's challenging. Government people and social worker people don't think like business people. So there's some cross-pollination there. Yes?
The 1,600 families that took place, like this year or whatever it was, are they in housing now? Is there a complex in the area that will, is government or tax supported that you use to put some of them into housing and they meet your requirements for managing and turning money over to you and so forth? But where do you get the housing that you put them in?
We work with other governmental agencies and other nonprofits, like for example, Habitat for Humanity. We're working with them. There's an organization called Brevard. I don't know if you've heard of that, Brevard Properties. They have some affordable housing that comes open for transitional from time to time. There's probably maybe a dozen different government and private agencies we work with, but there is no one central place, if that's what you were asking, that people go and matriculate through. Sometimes the housing we can provide them is temporary because they're looking for something maybe a little bit better, but we want them in housing so they know how to run a household. Sometimes it's more permanent. Some of these folks that I worked with, gosh, 3-4 years ago are still in the same place. Their kids get settled, it's a nice neighborhood, their kids are in school. Other folks, it's maybe a little bit tougher neighborhood, they want to matriculate out of there, they try to use the skills we gave them to save up more money to move on. So there is no one solution, there is no one clearinghouse. It's us reaching out to all the county agencies, all the nonprofits, and them knowing about us so that they can refer to us when it's an appropriate situation.
Did you say that one of the requirements was that somebody in the household had to be a male?
Yeah, it is. Like for example, if you are a mother, and I think the way it works is you would have an adult male if the child is like 12 years old. That would qualify. So you could be a female with a male. We just had the family I just worked with last week, female and a child 20 with Downs. So basically a 6 or 7 year old and a 17-year-old child. Another mother, a 17-year-old child. A father, who the wife just left him, a 5-year-old kid. So it could be real diverse what we have. But what brings the commonality is, I guess kind of like go through boot camp or something. With a bunch of people you don't know, but by the end of it you're kind of bonded. So if people are going through this program and they're sacrificing together and they're being disciplined together and they're following these rules together, they build up friendships and they help each other when there's problems.
Well, I just wondered what the purpose of requiring the family to have at least one male was.
Because there's a lot of agencies that deal with other situations.
Right.
Men are hard to house.
Right.
If you're a man, you go to a shelter. If you're a man, you go to a drug house. If you're a man and you've got a kid, where do you go in this county if you're homeless? Find a place. They come to us. You know, if you're a grandma and you've got 5 girls, there's lots of places you can go in this county. You can count them up on 2 hands. But if you have a male child, especially an older one, where do you go? You come to us. There's no place else. That's our niche. If you would say.
I never thought about the difference, but there is.
Yeah. And that's what when this agency was founded, 35 years ago, they discovered that, and that's what the focus is, and the government still sees homelessness the same way. So we think it's important to keep families together. We think families have a better chance of staying in homes if they're properly motivated. Then it's just good to have a male around. You know, be a good prop, be a good model, be a good provider. Couple of things, just in closing here. The homeless problem is real. And it's not just what you think or exposed to in the stereotypes and on TV shows. And I've talked with firemen, I've talked with police officers. This conversation's a tough sell with them because they've seen it on the streets. And it's tough. It's tough. But again, it's a real problem. It affects you and me. And God bless the souls of those folks who are not eligible for Family Promise. I don't know what they do. But God bless them. For Family Promise, we know what we do. And we target specifically families. And we have a very high success rate. And what we want to do is give people that old saying, a hand up and not a handout. Sometimes people are in our place, are in our program because they have made bad choices. But raise your hand if you have in your life. Sometimes, most of us in our lives, someplace along the way, have needed a mentor, a teacher, a friend, somebody we look up to help us when we had a tough day, when we had a tough time. Most of us have experienced that. And it's human to do that. And that's what we try to do. John Bradford, he was a preacher in the 1500s. He wrote this saying, you might have heard it, there for the grace of God, go I. Yeah. I think all of us can relate to that.
Bill Wilson.
So anyway, that's who we're trying to reach. And when you meet the families and you meet the kids, you see their imperfections, you see in some ways why they're homeless, because maybe they're not organized as they should be, or they made some bad decisions, but you see also the potential. They wouldn't be in that program if they didn't have the heart and the guts to see it through. So Matthew said it this way, I think. For I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me. I was in prison and you came to visit me. And the righteous, of course, the high and the mighty, the priests, and all the legal people said, no, we didn't do that. When did we ever see you hungry? When did we ever see you thirsty? When did we ever visit you in prison? When did we ever see you homeless? No, we never did that to you, Jesus. And as you did this to the least of these, my brothers, you did it unto me. Amen. So,
Right.
I'm sorry, I get emotional about this. Because it touches my heart. So I apologize for that. But anyway,
Right.
thank you for the time this morning. If you have any interest in either volunteering or knowing more, see me, give me your email. I'll be sure that we get in touch with you. We're always looking for volunteers. If your skill set is filing, we need filers. If your skill set is doing dinners, we need people to do dinners. If your skill set is just showing up and kind of hanging around, we need volunteers for our different events. So if any of that interests you, see me and I'll take your email and we'll go from there. Thank you, brother, for your time.
I'll say a prayer for us.
Yeah, I will. Father God, we know not your ways. We know not why it is not us on the street, but someone else. But we do know this. You love us, you are for us, you are with us, and you command us. You don't ask us, you don't even suggest. You command us to love our neighbor as ourselves right after we love you with all our heart, might, strength, courage, and everything we have. Help us to understand that as we have fellowship like this, and as we reach out into our neighborhood to offer an assisting hand, we're not doing it for ourselves. We're not really even doing it for the people we serve. We're doing it to honor you. Always and always. Give us the strength, the vision, and the insight to see your path for us and our lives. Clear us of our pride, our self-centeredness, our ego, so that we may see your will, we may see your path. Help us walk that path, and when we stumble, we know you will be there to pick us up. We love you, we honor you, we praise you, we thank you for the blessing of living in this country, and for everything you've done for us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Jim. That's tough.
Good job.
I can relate to this totally. My 4th and 5th grade year, when I was growing up, we moved all those three consecutive years, and it was because circumstances. My family moved into an affordable house, so we couldn't afford this little place by the railroad track. And then they built an interstate through, so we didn't have a house anymore. So then we ended up going into a support house for about a year. I can totally relate to that. But you know what? The main thing is, just like he was talking about, the family was able to stay together there, and we were able to go out and buy a house. Thanks to my dad and his Korean War service, we were able to get his veterans loan and get into a house. And but it's times like that you don't, as a kid, you don't hit you that hard, but as a parent, my parents were dying over this, but we were able to stay together, and I'm very thankful for it, and thankful for agencies just like you have there. Don't forget to give him your email address if you're looking to be part of that. The one thing that we did when I was in the Postal Service was we have a consolidated fundraiser and campaign, and you're able to designate your funds where you want them to go there. I don't know if you guys are members of that. You might want to check into CFC to see if you can be, if you're not.
Okay.
Because you can get stuff designated to it. The one thing we did that I'll say about CFC is you see what money goes right to the field and what's used for overhead on the readout when you're looking at everybody's You know, our church is part of that, our missionary outreach is part of that, and it tells you right there what percentage is going to the field for every dollar that you put into it. But thank you, don't forget Sonny's, they're very, very gracious to us, give us this time. And, you know, this costs them space and it costs them a little bit of a server, and they're definitely generous with their food, so be generous to them. Or for somebody else that maybe can't afford to pay today, you can put a few extra bucks in there. Next week, we get Pastor Jesse Northway, and he's going to speak on, I don't know if you know, there's a Space Coast rally coming up this, what was it, just one couple steps this fall, but it's next spring and summer, and he's going to talk about that. It's going to be, it's a great big thing, practically what I would call a Billy Graham excursion. It's going to be right up here at the Space Coast. Several churches, our church is involved with prayer support. I lead the prayer ministry at our church, so we've already been contacted and we're starting to pray and get into a few meetings with this, but he'll explain some more of that next week so you can get an idea of what's coming up, and we can make this a real, to use pastor's word last week, an impact situation for the Space Coast. So thank you. Have a good day.